Welcome to the Academic Success and Advising Center's workshop, Time Management and Procrastination. In this presentation, we'll cover the importance of managing time successfully, especially in an online or hybrid environment, as well as ways to avoid distractions and procrastination. The links to handouts or videos noted in the PowerPoint are available below this posted video on the workshop website. When you think of time management, it's important to remember that managing time successfully will benefit you in numerous aspects of your life. Most of this presentation will focus specifically on the college experience and how balancing your time will help you have a successful semester. Learning how to manage your time while taking online or blended classes is extremely important. COVID-19 brought about many changes for students, which in turn presented many challenges. Many students went from sitting in the classroom to sitting at home and learning virtually through a computer. Think about your experience with this. How was the adjustment for you? Do you remember struggling with anything specifically linked to time management and organization? Make note of your ideas so you may be prepared to solve these issues if you encounter them again. Since this is a very unpredictable time, it is important to be prepared to manage your time and learn on ground or online. You never know when you'll have to quickly adapt. This slide offers tips for virtual time management. On the left-hand side, you'll find a few notes about creating your own virtual office or environment. First, try setting up what we call a virtual desk and designate that as your work area. If you associate this spot with your work, you'll most likely feel more focused. I know it's not possible for everyone, but if you can find an area with reliable internet, then you're less likely to have connection issues while attending classes virtually. So if possible, try to find an area with the strongest signal. A few other tips include having a well-lit space, trying to eliminate any distractions, and having all the supplies you need, such as pens, notebooks, highlighters, etc. During virtual learning, it might seem impossible to find a quiet area with no distractions when you're working from home, but do the best you can to organize a nice spot for yourself where you know you'll work. The list on the right side of the slide contains good habits to practice while working remotely. Remember to take breaks. This doesn't mean get up and walk away during class. Trust me, professors notice when you're not there, even when you're virtual. This simply means don't attach yourself to a desk all day. Give yourself some breaks to walk around and regroup. Since many of your assignments will be sent back electronically, make sure you're reading all of your professor's comments and noting their feedback. The last two bullet points relate to communication. First, be responsive to others. If a professor, staff member, or classmate has reached out to you via email or any other way, please respond. Make sure there aren't days between communication because you're most likely receiving an email for a specific reason. Additionally, please don't hesitate to reach out for help. If you're having an issue with email, Moodle, Microsoft Teams, or just any other general question about your courses, campus, etc., reach out. You can contact a professor or staff member, and if they can't answer the question for you, they will find someone who can. Remember, we want you to succeed, so we're here to help. Another thing you can do to actively manage your time is to keep a calendar or planner. Think about when you're most productive and try to complete your most difficult tasks during that time. Also, use your fragmented time. In between classes or meetings, you may have 15 to 20 minutes. If this is the case, use that time for a quick break, to respond to an important email, or to regroup and reorganize your workspace. Think about what you can do with your fragmented time based on your schedule. Establishing a routine can take a few weeks to do, but it will certainly help with having a consistent schedule and staying on task. Make sure you're creating a daily to-do list to make sure you're completing what needs to be done. And try to get a planner, whether you purchase one or download one electronically on your phone. Inputting all the important due dates and tasks that you have will certainly help you stay organized. The handout you see on this slide is a checklist for online work. It might be helpful for you to keep this handy to make sure you're setting up correctly for a virtual learning environment. This handout is available through the Helpful Handouts page on the Academic Success and Advising Center's webpage. The link is also provided below this video on the workshops page. The link to this YouTube video can be found on the workshop's webpage below this video, and it might be worth checking out. It's a very brief video and touches on 20 time management tips that help you stay organized. Some of these we'll touch on during this PowerPoint. The rest of this presentation focuses on three main obstacles that students often experience: procrastination, distractions, and overextending themselves. On the following slides, we touch on each of these and offer solutions. Obstacle 1 is procrastination. This is when you put off doing something, probably not for a good reason, and you start to fall behind on what needs to be done. This often happens when you want something done correctly and perfectly, but since you don't have the time to do that, you might avoid doing it altogether. Sometimes you might be afraid of doing it wrong, or you might just be bored and distracted by something else, and you never come back to the task. Looking for solutions to procrastination? Here are a few easy tips. First, make things relate to your interests. If you have an assignment where you can pick your topic, then choose something you're actually interested in. This will encourage you to do the work and produce good work. Remind yourself of what might happen if you don't complete your work. And if it happens to be a large task that seems a bit intimidating, then break it down into a bunch of smaller pieces. It might seem easier to tackle that way. As I mentioned earlier, creating a to-do list is also helpful, or even promising yourself some sort of reward if you get a task done, such as Netflix time, working out, or something else you like to do. The second obstacle is distractions, and we all encounter these. Usually when you get distracted, you're losing time that could be dedicated to other, more productive things. Look at the questions on the slide and think about your answers. Where do you often encounter distractions? Think about the time of day that you normally encounter them. Now think about a typical day and write down your common distractions that you often experience. When it comes to eliminating distractions, a lot of this comes down to staying focused and holding yourself responsible. You need to choose a quiet area to work. If you're on campus, there are numerous study areas, such as the Student Activity Center, the front parlors in SAY, and the library. And try turning off or putting away your phone just for a little while. I know this may seem impossible to do, but if you silence it for just 15 minutes or so, you might realize how productive you can actually be. Lastly, give yourself mini breaks. We all need to get up and walk around before we jump back into a class or additional study time. The last obstacle is overextending. This often happens when you take on too much and you realize you don't have enough time for everything. This may happen if you're taking too many courses, if you haven't been realistic about how difficult some of your coursework might be, or if you've taken on too many social activities, such as sports or clubs, not to mention that many students also have jobs. When you think about ways to decrease your stress and not become overextended, you need to know your limits. You know yourself best and how much you can handle. When you realize you have no time to balance your responsibilities, it's then that you need to figure out what should be dropped or eliminated. This doesn't necessarily mean to drop a class first. Instead, look at all you have going on and maybe cut back on a couple work hours or drop an activity or club that might be taking up too much of your time. Now that we're nearing the end of the presentation, let's review how you can manage your time a bit better. First, remember to prioritize tasks. I've mentioned creating to-do lists, marking things in order of importance, and using a planner. Next, complete those tasks. Make sure you're maintaining a routine and schedule to keep you successful. Last, delegate responsibility when needed. This might happen if you're participating in group work and need to lay out the steps you'll take to complete a task. The last couple slides of this presentation are a time management activity that involves a time management matrix. After I review the matrix on the next slide, try creating one for yourself and fill in each of the boxes appropriately. What you see on this slide is a time management matrix divided into 4 different quadrants. Quadrant 1 at the top left is for urgent, important, pressing matters. You can see some examples include deadlines, emergencies, last minute preparations, and unexpected tasks that pop up. You don't always want to be in this matrix, as it means you're scrambling to get things done and haven't been managing your time successfully. In quadrant 2 at the top right, you see examples that are important, not urgent, and focus on productivity, such as studying, managing time, and practicing healthy habits. You'll want to spend most of your time in this quadrant since it means you're being most productive here. Quadrant 3 is often full of not important, urgent matters that are often distractions, such as emails, texts, phone calls, etc. You want to make sure you minimize the list in this quadrant and try to organize those tasks much better. Last, quadrant 4 is for not important, not urgent tasks, which are often time wasters, such as TV, video games, and other forms of entertainment, sometimes socializing. This isn't saying that you shouldn't be doing those activities, but make sure that everything else is completed first before you reach this quadrant. This is a blank matrix. Maybe you want to recreate this on a piece of paper and fill it in based on your own life and obligations. Then you'll be able to see in which quadrant do you spend most of your time. When thinking about this presentation and the time management matrix, you're probably wondering when these skills would come in handy other than in college. Well, think about your daily life and your future. In almost everything you do, you have to manage time successfully. This is a time management matrix based on a workplace. The same things that you may write down in your quadrants also take place in the professional world. You'll encounter time wasters, distractions, and many other things that will cause you to get off task and overwhelm. Learning how to successfully balance all of these obligations will certainly work to your benefit. Finally, when it comes to time management, remember to do what works best for you. You may have to adjust how you do things more than once throughout the semester before you find a strategy or routine that works best for you. And always remember to ask for help. Everyone at Centenary wants to see you succeed.